Hey everyone, today on Fanservice we've got an awesome guest in the studio. It's Nathan Noyes, or also known as Nathan Felix, who just wrote a symphony. We've got an awesome 10 things list for an over-the-top movie, plus more game storming. Don't go anywhere, stay tuned to this episode of Fanservice. Hey everyone, welcome to Fanservice. We had a great Halloween and we had a great October month of lots of horror shows with you, and we're ready to wrap up this year, kicking off the first of many great shows lined up for you guys. Today we have an awesome guest. Nathan Felix is in the studio with us. I want to clap because he's just awesome. Wait till you see what he's wearing. Everybody loves it.
And wait till you hear his music. We were playing some of it earlier. It is just fantastic.
Which you'll get to hear a piece during the show. So you had an announcement about Loot Crate doing something.
That's true. Loot Crate is, in case you're not familiar, go back and watch our segment last time comparing Loot Crate, Booty Bin, which is terrible, and the newcomer of Nerd Block. But Loot Crate is offering whoever recruits the most people an Xbox One and a PlayStation 4. Now, you might notice if you go to our website, there's a little ad where you can click on Join Loot Crate. You guys will get $3 off, and we can build up towards the excitement that is maybe having some game consoles to review before they actually come out, because these are pre-orders that they will send to us. If you want to see us review some awesome games for you, sign up and get yourself an awesome holiday present.
Yeah, Loot Crate's pretty awesome. I love it.
This
I've
month's
never been disappointed. It was
fantastic.
Man, I liked your booty bin. We just threw it off the table. I mean,
that's terrible.
It was terrible. It
And
was an
Nerd
old
Block just
toy.
really wasn't organized at all. They do a great job with the theming. I mean, this month in particular, you ended up, and they're not paying us to say this, by the way. We just really love them. But this month was a zombie theme, and you got an actual book by Max Brooks. You got a full 2-color T-shirt. Everything else tied in really well. And you know what? That's totally normal for them. Completely standard.
I love it.
I do too.
All right, so we're going to get the show started as we do every week with Geek Week News. All right, so Geek Week News is something we love to do each week where we try to tackle the 5 big stories that we found that we just really love. So we're going to kick it right off with my personal deity, Tim Burton. I love him. He's never done me wrong.
You don't feel like his movies all kind of look alike?
Shut your mouth, you
And
heretic!
Maybe as much as I love Danny Elfman, kind of sound alike.
Heretic.
I'm not saying I don't enjoy them. I just did a whole thing for Nightmare Before Christmas, but... So what has he got for us?
Anyways, so he's working on Big Eyes right now, which is about the artist who does things with big eyes, which I don't quite understand. But his next one is Mrs. Pettigrew's Home for Peculiar Children.
Which is a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, it's a young adult, but it's just really well done.
I think it's perfect for him, just the way I thought Big Fish was perfect for him. But I'm kind of
liked Big Fish?
I liked Big Fish. I read the book before the movie, and I sasaid, wow, Tim Burton should make this movie. And then, hey, guess what? He made it.
I feel that way about Dune. I'm the only person that actually likes the movie, but I'd read the book several times first.
The one with Sting and... No.
Duh.
We're just going to agree to disagree on this one. I like the other one, but...
All right, so...
So Tim Burton announced, but I kind of like to see him go back to do more original stuff like Edward Scissorhands.
I
and
agree, actually.
I think he's doing a lot of adaptions, which...
Here's the thing with it. What he really needs to do, in my opinion, is actually break up his team. He needs to, I hate to say this, not have Johnny Depp and not have Helena Bonham Carter in something. Bring in some new blood, get a little bit of energy in there that's not something that's really familiar. I think that'll make him stop regurgitating the same material.
Well, I can't believe you picked Helena Bonham Carter over Lisa Marie anyway. She's like monkey ugly. I'm sorry.
Maybe she has an awesome personality, which, by the way, she seems to actually be a really
She got hit in the
fantastic
face with
human
a frying pan, though. When you
Wow.
see Lisa Marie, she was hot.
Good to know that he's judging women entirely off of their appearance, and talent doesn't matter in the slightest. Good for you, Tim Burton, for marrying someone you get along with well, who does a really good job with her work.
I'm just like, she was Martian Spy Girl. You remember Martian Spy Girl? That was hot.
Anyway, moving along.
Anyway, so next up, Do y'all remember the video for the phone blocks where it was company said, let's make modular phones?
I've wanted modular computing of all sorts for a while. I feel like I was lied to by science fiction authors who are like, yeah, someday you're just going to have a case that you just put together because it's pretty. You'll just slam all of your different modules in there. I want that. I wanted an OXO, for Christ's sake. I want this stuff so bad.
Good news, Chris Rachel.
What?
Motorola is backing phone blocks that are now working on
Yes!
Project Aria, which is going to be the first modular phone system. So if you need a bigger battery,
Do you
pop it in.
think this is going to go the same way that the OQO went, though? Because OQO made a lot of really big promises. How much is Motorola going to charge for this?
I don't know, but Motorola is also owned by Google, so you know they're going to do it right. Don't make that face. I know you're not as big on Google, but what I'm excited for is this, I think, will become the standard Android phone the way that iPhone is the only iPhone. There's no OS on anything else. I think what that'll do is it's going to up the standards for the Android phones, so we're not going to have like a bajillion ones because I don't like having to get a new phone every year.
I also, part of my problem with Android is trying to figure out which phone to get when I walk in. I mean, the Apple iPhone is the phone of the lazy. You can just walk in like, I just want the new one. Just make it work.
Mac
Here,
zombies.
make all of the old things go on the new thing and I'm good to go. Whereas with Android, I don't know. Every time I walk in and look at Android phones, there's no one is superior. There's always just a like, well, do I want a little more of the video or do I want a little bit more of call quality? It's
Well,
so
now
much
you're
of
going
a
to have that
compromise.
choice. You're going to be able to totally custom make your phone and snap
And my
things
phone
on
will be
off and
this
go.
big because I put all the
It's
modules
still going to be like
into
this, but you know, so I'm excited to see what's going to come of it.
All right.
Up next, they announced Trick or Treat 2. Now, Trick or Treat is one of my favorite movies of all time, especially for Halloween. Did you watch it? It's like a horror anthology
I don't even
movie.
know why we're on the same show.
Because it's awesome. And they announced Trick or Treat 2 at a live stream event, and I'm just all sorts of excited because I get to see more of that awesome director and that awesome thing that they're creating. And they want to do like Fantasia was supposed to do and make one every maybe other year or so and keep it going and just have lots of fun because it really just blew me away. And if you don't like it, you're just go see the demons in the TV because they haunted her as a child apparently.
He's never forgetting that.
Because how do you tell a child that you got demons in your TV so you can't watch the Smurfs?
I had a crazy grandmother.
So Trick or Treat, I'm super excited. We're going to see what comes of it. Hopefully it'll get a theatrical release and not be totally jacked around by Warner Brothers.
This will be a sci-fi movie classic.
Like Thanksgiving. Up next.
Yes.
Okay, Disney, we all know they're making a live action Maleficent movie. It's about to call her whatever. So they're making a live
You're
action.
just stuck on the live action Muppets, aren't you?
A live action Maleficent movie filming right now with Angelina Jolie. They just announced they're going to do a Cruella de Vil one. Now, I'm not really sure
They
if she
kind
could.
of already did that, didn't they?
Yeah, Glenn Close did a fantastic job in the live action movie. But let's spin off a whole story about crazy lady who's obsessed with fur into his movie of its own. I don't see how it's going to work.
The problem with that especially is, like, Maleficent, I can see actually using the Once Upon a Time model to make her a good guy, because they're essentially making older Disney princesses out of this. But with Cruella de Vil, I don't want to see Cruella de Vil was tortured as a child, or, well, they probably won't do torture because it's Disney.
I don't know
but
what it
maybe
is.
she was bullied as a kid, and that turned her into a bully that has to skin dogs as an adult.
I
That doesn't
just-
make sense.
The whole thing just
Maleficent will
rubs me
work,
wrong.
I think, because I think they're going to base her off of Regina on Once Upon a Time.
Which I think would be brilliant to do for her.
Yeah.
Great, because I love Once Upon a Time.
One thing we can agree on.
Finally! It's been a year now? All right, so last thing. I don't know if you guys managed to catch it, but this week the concept art for Transformers 4 got leaked for what the robots look like. And if you've watched the show on the Hub, you've pretty much seen how they're styling the new robots for a darker, grittier movie, making them look more animated.
I was going to say anime-tastic.
I don't quite get it. They pulled
Don't
it.
you really
I'm
need
hoping
robots
it's
to have
wrong.
giant eyes and spikes everywhere on them? Totally unnecessary spikes everywhere.
It was very sleek, very stylized, very curvy. It totally threw me for a loop. I was like, why are you going to go for a grittier version of Transformers, but keep it this like kiddie style? They still have the ghost flames and things like that. I'm just
Yeah.
like, and they took it off really quick. I couldn't find it to show you guys, but I'm hoping that it was
I think
a
it would
fake.
be adorable, though, if they decided to go with like some really brutal Transformers.
Adorable Transformers.
Adorable if it was a really brutal Transformers done in the most like Hasbro kids style
Like
ever.
a chibi style Megatron. Hey!
Except that, like, hey, guess what? We're gonna go out there and slaughter the entire human population this week. Yay! Then we'll go to Equestria.
So, we've gone to My Little Pony territory. That means it's time to wrap up Geek Week News. You can find all these and more online under Geek Week News. Plus, we're constantly putting things on Facebook, so make sure you follow us there. But I got to watch a movie this week called Bounty Killer, and I've come up with a 10 things list why you must watch Bounty Killer because it's just all sorts of awesome. Here's our 10 things list for the week. right, so one of my favorite things ever is these crazy, over-the-top explosions and gore-filled shoot-'em-up movies. They throw rules and physics out the window to deliver us one hell of a ride, and the recently released Bounty Killer is absolutely no exception. This movie is all over crazy, and it's fun, and it's bloody, and just awesome. So in case you're kind of sitting on the fence as to whether or not you want to watch this film, I present you right now with my 10 things you will love about Bounty Killer. First off at number 10, it's all about the gunplay. There are massive amounts of shots fired in this movie, and many are resulting in exploding heads. Shotguns seem to be a popular choice, but the dual-wielded pistols leave one hell of a mark as well. Coming in at number 9, it's going to have to go down to the other weapons, because you can't always just have guns. But most notably is the Gypsies, which is a faction, have an axe made out of a stop sign. The thing is awesome, and when used the way it is, there are just buckets of blood gushing from everything. Plus, it's kind of funny using a stop sign as a weapon. I personally would have gone with one of those yellow ones you see at the schools with the lady crossing with the child. I think that would have just been funny. Coming in at number 8, I'm going to give this to the setting. I mean, who doesn't love a post-apocalyptic world? I mean, we have them everywhere. But in Bounty Killer, the world is destroyed, but not by armies, but by corporations. Yep, Walmart destroyed us. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I told you so. Walmart is evil. But what I like about this setup is that instead of common criminals being hunted down, it's CEOs. I find that absolutely brilliant. Can you imagine Boba Fett hunting down the CEO of like Toys R Us? And you get awesome motion comic transition scenes that set up the world during massive scenes. It's just awesome. At number 7 is the motorcycle drawn chariot. You heard that right. It's an RV, and instead of horses, it's pulled by harnessed motorcycles. You just have to see it to believe it, and really, no mere words can describe how great this is. I mean, just the creative factor alone blows your mind. At number 6 is none other than the ever-popular role of gun caddy. Imagine a golf caddy, but instead of clubs, you have various blunt objects and firearms, and your job is to keep your bounty killer well armed. And that has to be at all times. I want that job. Imagine the wondrous things you'll get to play with that you can pull out of the magic bag of goodies. Number 5 is Mary Death's car. Yeah, it's a car, but it looks an awful lot like Bumblebee from the Transformers movie, only with a kick-ass nose art stylized logos on top of it. But I kept really expecting it to transform into a robot, which would have rocked creators of Bounty Killer, hint, hint, for the sequel, at it. But I could settle for the insane car chase where Mary Death drives the car with her heels while opening fire on her target. And she's got that heel going in there. It's just awesome because it's crazy. Car chase makes no sense. Number 4, I'm going to have to give this to Mary Death herself. Sure, she's a stock female character who's badass in all the right ways, but that's what we really expect from movies like this. We're not at like Oscar caliber. We just want to be entertained. And so give her a little dark backstory and the rags to riches history and lots of guns firing. It's exactly what we needed from this film. Number 3 has to go to the hero, the Bounty Killer Drifter. I really didn't see his twist coming as it was that well hidden. He was a character you liked, you followed, you wanted to know more about. He wasn't in it for the fame and the money like the rest of the bounty killers, because that's all they're doing it for. They're celebrities in this world, and that's what they do it for, fame and money. But he's out there for a reason. So coming into number 2, this is going to go to the weird cast, including Gary Busey. Yes, you heard that right. Anything you see that guy in, you expect to see just a bad sci-fi made-for-TV movie. But not the good ones like Sharknado. No, you're expecting the bootleg ones they make when a blockbuster comes out, like American Battleship, where they fight aliens, or Atlantic Rim, where giant robots fight giant monsters. Yeah, it's that level of bad you expect with films like Gary Busey. But the entire cast rose above the B-movie status to give us something really, really fun. And lastly, the most important thing at number 1 is the action and gore. The things they do in this film are just over-the-top kick-ass. Mary Death bombs things with these little bombs. There's stop-sign axe wounds, jetpacks. Yes, they have jetpacks. Corporate mobs. Hell, the entire final fight in The Office alone was worth the price of admission. If you like crazy and insane fun, this is the movie for you. So there you have it. That's my 10 things why you need to watch Bounty Hunter, because it kicks ass. And it's out right now on DVD and Blu-ray. You got to go get it. It's not going to be expensive, and you're going to be entertained for hours. So go get it now, or I'm going to find a bounty killer, and I'm going to get him sicked on you. All right, so you just heard a piece of the Curse, the Cross, and the Lion. I always get the Curse and the Cross mixed up. By Nathan Felix. How are you, Nathan? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you for having me.
We've met months ago through the Cinematic Symphony, and they told me, hey, he's doing the symphony. Talk to him. And so we sat down and we just had a good time, and we listened to the symphony. And if you haven't noticed, it is the Curse, the Cross, and the Lion. This comes out. What day does it come out?
Tuesday, November 5th.
Tuesday, November 5th. All right, so that's this week.
That is.
People go pick it up. So tell me a little bit about this symphony.
So this is actually inspired by the movie Trick or Treat, which I love.
See? Well, give me 5. Right on. People have good taste here.
Do go on.
Well, it's cinematic. It took 8 years to sort of teach myself how to write music. Yeah, 8 years, a long road.
Before you got started, had you ever written something along these lines?
Nothing close to it. I was playing punk music and writing 3-chord.
Ask him what the punk band was.
What was the punk band?
I'm not going to talk about the punk band.
Well, it's okay that you don't want to talk about this because this sounds fan-freaking-tastic. While we were listening to the music video, I was narrating to him what I thought should be going on. It's like, this is a chase scene, isn't it? So, out of curiosity, like, did you watch the movie first and then come up with everything, or was this before the movie?
Well, it's sort of simultaneously written to a story that I came up with, and I started writing the music loosely based on that. And then the music sort of just took precedent, and the story's sort of lagging right now, but I'll sort of finish that based on the music now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's cinematic. I just thought of sort of childhood dreams that I had of, being in some sort of situation where you have to be a superhero or you have to fight the evil villain. So.
Right? Who doesn't dream about that? Except maybe Chris Rachel.
What?
You dream of kitchen stuff.
I also dreamed. I had a cape on recently.
Oh, you did. We could totally be like the Fanservice superhero squad. Maybe. We'll have tryouts.
I think that he gets to be the villain. I think that we just got to do some Two-Face going on.
Yeah, he'd have to totally be the villain.
I was talking to my wife earlier on the way here about being a villain, and or she said you're the villain of sort of classical music because.
That would be a great way to market yourself. That's right, baby. I'm the villain of classical music.
So, what is the general story behind the Curse, the Cross, the Lion?
So it's very general and loose right now, but it's a basic story of good versus evil, and really, this symphony, I want people to listen to it, and enjoy it, and sort of make up their own story.
Which is easy to do, actually.
And sort of get lost in the music, and instead of when you hear sort of themes from Star Wars or other movies, you already have the images in your head, so you sort of.
They're very iconic.
Yeah.
They are.
They're not up for interpretation. Like you hear Imperial March, you know what you're seeing Darth Vader walk.
These days, if I hear that, I assume I'm at a wedding.
So yeah, this one, basically you have almost a cinematic soundtrack that you can create your own story to and get lost in it and have your own invention. It can go anywhere. And when I come up with a story, that'll be something else, a new dynamic
So
for it.
I hear to help you make this symphony. You made action figures.
Really?
That's true. I should have brought the action figures.
That would have been awesome,
I don't know
actually.
why I didn't.
So you were playing out the symphony while you decided to make it.
Well, the action figures
It's okay. We all play with toys around here. You don't have to be like, well, they're not dolls, they're action figures, and they were just there.
We get it, really.
I love toys. No, the music, as it sort of started to develop, I thought, well, why not sort of, the movie always comes up first, and the music, then all the other merchandise, and I thought, why not go backwards, have the music, then sort of, in some wild idea, create these sort of toys and that go along to the characters, the themes in the symphony. So called up an artist here in town, and he sculpted up some things for me.
So you were telling me earlier that it's a kind of medieval setting. What do these action figures look like?
Well, in my mind, it's partly medieval, but for everyone else, it can be
It could have been a
modernizing.
European chase scene.
Yes. So.
They were fighting over cake. Whatever.
But what was your question? I
What
totally
do
forgot what you asked.
What do
look
your
like?
action figures look like?
Oh, so they're sort of based off, there's a lion, so hence the name Curse Cross Lion. Then there's evil, there's death, there's life and stuff like that. So again, the whole good versus evil story. So
Do you ever just sit them down and play with them? Not necessarily in the tub, but like
I
over dinner.
only play in the tub with them.
See, that's the only way you can really play these days. Get the bubbles going, put your action figures on. We're going to act out this symphony. You're going to go this way and chase it, yeah.
Which is
Lots
why
of
we
fun.
don't let him film from home.
Yeah, it would not be pretty. So, you've also been really busy with this symphony. You've been to California.
Wow.
Yeah.
California. That's far away.
well, yeah, it is from here. I saw all the pictures of the symphony recording it that you were sending out.
So the symphony was recorded in New York.
Uh-huh.
I've spent some time in California recently, yes, sort of promoting it, talking to agents and that sort of thing. I also went to Bulgaria.
Okay, that actually is a
That's
valid.
right.
I know it was far away somewhere, but the first thing that came out of my mouth was California. I was one letter off. Forgive me.
I went to Bulgaria not to play any of these or have an orchestra perform this piece, but based off this piece, they accepted me to write a new piece. So it's sort of helping, develop, other parts of life as a composer.
So most punk artists don't go, you know what I'm going to do? Spend 8 years on a symphony.
Exactly.
What made you decide that you were going to go from just playing a couple of instruments to conducting an entire symphony? Well, not personally conducting it, but writing everything for it. There's a lot of instruments. There's more than 4.
Yeah, that's sort of a big jump now that I think about it from
Yeah.
punk to that. There's no one real thing. I think that I wanted the challenge, and I heard this music in my head touring in a punk band, and we would just...
So you're standing there, everyone else is like, rah, rah, rah. And
you're
you
like,
know what I hear?
Close. It was more after the show. We'd be at each other's throats.
You sure that wasn't just the ringing in your ears after the show?
It could have been that, actually. Some high harmonies. No, we were really upset at each other, and we were at each other's throats and really mad. Imagine being 60 days in a van with 3 other people.
Imagine being an hour show each week with other people.
That's true. I'm amazed that murder doesn't happen on a regular basis.
I know.
So 60 days in a van.
Yeah, and so towards the end, you just don't want to talk to anyone. You don't want to, have anything to do with anyone in the band. So, yeah, we'd turn on the radio station, classical music, and it would calm us down, calm me down in particular. And I started to hear these arrangements in my head, and I thought, I got to do that. It just sort of gravitated towards it. And
What made you decide to go with a more cinematic style with something like that? Because a lot of classical composers really shy away from it because they consider it too commercial.
Yeah, I just went with what I loved. And, obviously, I had never really listened to any classical music beforehand. And now that I've sort of listened to more, I think my second symphony is definitely going to be a lot more mature. Not saying this isn't mature, but just I'll be able to look back and say, oh, look, this is where I was musically and see myself grow. And I'm really proud of that. But, this one I wanted to get out everything that as a child that I loved, and so hence the, superheroes and the good versus evil basic story, and this, was that opportunity.
The one on here that I really, really loved and listened to all the time is the funeral montage. It was just so different, and it sounded like it's straight from the heart. How did you come up with that one?
That's funny because the song "In My Heart" you would think came straight from the heart. But funeral mod, how did I come up with that? Well, I needed a movement to finish it.
Well, it was a great, great way to finish the symphony. I mean, it's moving, because one of my favorite things is that last 10 minutes of like a Disney film where that music just swells up and goes. Don't roll your head at me.
I'm not. I'm turning to look at him.
And it had that perfect finish to this just already epic score that, everyone that's listened to it has just loved it.
Well, it's funny, I sort of wrote it in sequential order, so I guess by that time, I sort of had more experience writing and more experience fleshing my ideas out, so that could be part of it. But, that at that point I was sort of delirious too, because I was ready to finish this.
It does have a touch of insanity to it. I think that's also why I had latched onto it so well.
When 8 years is a long time to spend on any artistic project, what were you doing as an actual day job during that time to pay the rent?
I didn't really like paying rent at that time.
Most musicians don't, I find.
That's a good question. I don't really remember much from that time in my life. I only remember staying up till 4 in the morning every day or every night.
So everything else is just a blur.
Yeah, I know I did some things. I don't remember. I think maybe I was very fortunate to have a few songs from my band in some commercials and stuff like that that sort of helped me get by. But yeah, I probably did odd jobs here and there.
Okay.
So
Well,
that sounds sketchy, right?
now that you are done with this and comes out on Tuesday, what do you want to do now? Like, do you want to start writing another musical? You want to start?
Have you already started writing another one?
Well, first thing I want to go to California. That's my first thing.
I'm just laughing because someday, Gavin.
Someday I'm going to get my locations correct.
So I wanted to perform now. That's the next step, is to have this perform. But yes, I already have an offer to to record the second symphony.
Really?
Next
Congratulations.
year. Yeah, thank you. It's really exciting.
How do you get an offer to write another symphony? Because symphonies aren't something that I think people are like, you know what I really need? I need a symphony.
Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate to meet the conductor who conducted this piece, Andre Lusada. I got to send out my props to him because he's really been a crucial element of how these things are getting done. And so he took a chance on me for this one, and it worked out so well that so now he said, let's up the ante, a bigger orchestra, better orchestra. Nothing against this is an amazing orchestra.
Yeah.
And just everything to the next level, and so bigger concert hall to record.
Wow.
And so we're going to do it next year in Baltimore, and I'm 75% done with the second one, and it also is going to have a 100-piece choir. So
Wow.
You didn't have your busy enough time, We added some
Keep it
vocals as we
subtle
go.
with that, right?
yeah, very subtle. So, but yeah, and I think it's the best work that I've done so far in my life. So.
That's fantastic. I love it when you feel like whatever your current project is the best work you've ever done.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I also think it's because you're doing something that you love, and a lot of people, they just find themselves trapped in cubicles and corporate jobs, and they're not happy. They may making all sorts of money, but until you're following your dream, you never know what real happiness is.
Well, I think that regardless if you're in a cubicle or not, you can still be following your dream. So I wouldn't.
If your dream is to be an office lackey, like an office space.
Well.
Or in the evenings, you could be putting things together and aspiring towards someday in 8 years having your own symphony.
See, it took 8 years. So, and remember, it started when I was in a van trapped with 3 other people I didn't want to be with, just thinking about it. So.
So is your wife happy that these 8 years are finally over? She's like, good, you can move on to something else. I'm tired of this.
Yeah, she's very supportive, and bless her heart, I probably bring a lot of stress in her life. But I think she's...
But she gets to go to California.
That's
and
right.
if you're going that far, you got to hold on to a guy.
So you love music. Who is your favorite cinematic composer outside of yourself? Because you can't totally talk about yourself.
I have too many, but I love Bernard Herrmann. Is my favorite, all Hitchcock films. But I started on Danny Elfman. That's where I started.
Don't we all?
Right?
Danny Elfman's amazing.
Yeah.
He's just 100% awesome. Danny Elfman's just all over.
And he also started in a band.
That's right.
Because he was with Oingo Boingo, and then it was like, what, you want me to make music for your movie? I
Sure,
don't
why
think
not?
so. I'm not any good at this. No, he actually turned him down the first time, and they had
Did
to
he
be talked
really?
into it.
Well, I'm glad he got talked to him because he
Me
does
too.
amazing work. Have you listened to his symphony, the Paranoia Schizophrenia one?
I've heard a lot of his stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's what
Maybe
he
not.
did like you did. He woke up one day saying he wanted to write a symphony. It's called like Paranoia Schizophrenia. It is really good too.
I probably heard some of it, yeah.
It is. I was like, he wrote a symphony? That's why I think I liked you so much. I was like, he wrote a symphony too. This should be interesting.
I know he's doing the tour right now. I don't know. I don't think he's coming through Texas. Where
Why not?
They're doing
Well,
all
we're
this.
Texas. Let's
Yeah.
face facts.
It's still, it's amazing how a lot of these very cinematic feels, it's amazing how these cinematic feels can get you. Because really, when listening to this, I mean, when we were watching the video earlier, I was literally narrating, like, here's what I think is happening in this scene. And I really love being able to hear music that is non-vocal, that you know what's happening when you hear it. You can really visualize it. And you've done a stunning job with that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So this comes out Tuesday. Where can people pick it up?
So Tuesday, it's released sort of worldwide. You can stream it on Spotify, or you can get it on iTunes. You can actually pre-purchase it on iTunes today. The CD will be available at Waterloo, and the vinyl at Waterloo as well. Or you can sort of email me, ask me for a copy, and I'll...
Can they pick it up off of Amazon or anything like that?
It's on Amazon. Physical copies you can order on Amazon. I mean, you can find it anywhere and everywhere.
Everywhere you want to be, there's awesome music, is what he's saying.
So you can hit him up at thecursethe.com. They will be able to find everything about this symphony there, including, I'm guessing, places to buy it, and they can follow you and see what's coming next.
That's right.
And you said earlier that you really hoped that people would be able to make up their own scenes. Are you encouraging any sort of social media participation that way, of people sending you photos or doing image
that would be
manipulations
epic.
or anything like that of what they envisioned with it?
Yeah, my wife had the idea of sort of throwing it out there to people to sort of create their own video and content like that. It doesn't have to be the full movements, but just sort of 30-second clips. So yes, eventually. I think right now I'm just so overwhelmed on trying to, properly release it and stuff like that. But I would love, or we would love that sort of interaction with.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been dying to make a music video, you've got a great idea, and you just hear it in your head or see it in your head when you hear this, upload it to a site. Or
It'll
put it
be
on YouTube and send him a link.
A good deal of fun. So thanks for coming out, Nathan. It's been a long road getting here, and I'm glad we made it finally.
Finally.
And congratulations. This
Very
is
much
really
so.
excellent work.
Oh, thank you.
If you're going to spend 8 years on something, this is the thing you should have when you're done.
Yes. So best of luck with the CD, and I can't wait to hear what you have in store next.
Oh, you guys will be kept up to date with everything.
All right. Well, we'll definitely get you on the show for the next one, too. Up next, Jonathan's checking in with his edition of Game Storming. You won't want to miss it.
We're going to learn something.
I probably won't. We'll see how it goes. Welcome to Game Storming. This is our monthly segment where we get with one of the Uber game designers that we know, Jonathan. How do you say your last name?
Leistico.
Leistico. I was going to say let's go, but that wasn't right.
Well, that would be appropriate for gaming. Like, let's go play a board game.
So
No,
he
it's
takes
Leistico.
us on a journey each week to understand the deeper fundamentals of the games we're designing, the games we love, and how, as game designers, we can use that to make awesome products.
Yep.
So what do we have on board today?
All right, so you remember last week I talked about my favorite party game, Time's Up.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
And I mentioned that it was a commercialization of a folk game called Celebrities.
Yeah.
Right. So typically each week I talk about how you can take games, deconstruct them, and make better games. Yep, we're not going to talk about that today.
Oh, no.
Instead, we're talking about folk games.
Yay!
Woohoo!
When you
So-
see folk games, I think of those like banjo people on the patio.
So, all right, what is a folk game, right?
Apparently, it's a banjo on a patio.
Yeah,
So
banjo
folk
people.
art and folk music. Folk music is music that arises spontaneously from the people, right? And there is no like one particular creator of that piece of art, unlike say a symphony. Oh, that's right. I'm not talking to you because you don't like Helena Bonham Carter. So I'm only going to talk to Chris Rachel.
Oh, good. Yay!
You know what, Dan? I'm just going to walk this way.
Mac hater.
So tell me more about folk games.
All right, so folk game, right? So folk art, what you've got is you've got art that arises spontaneously from people. Folk stories are stories that arise spontaneously from people. Folk games are games that have no specific creator, but instead arise spontaneously from a people or a culture, right?
Okay.
So there's a few different types of folk games that you can go through. One of the most common types, or ones that we're all familiar with, are children's games.
Yeah.
So for example, children's games like Tag or Blind Man's Bluff or Red Rover or Marbles.
Okay.
Right? These are fascinating in that, first off, they're passed along through oral tradition, right?
Yeah.
Kids tell each other about them on the playground. Hey, here's how you play this game, right? The other thing that's fascinating about them, though, is that many of them are very enduring. They don't undergo the same kind of transformative genesis that many other types of folk game that we'll be talking about in a moment go through.
Okay.
For example, did you know that children in ancient Greece played marbles and tag?
Really?
And they played it pretty much exactly the same way we play it now.
I did not know that.
So there you go. Children's games, an interesting piece of folk game. Oh, there's another reason why I'm talking about folk games, actually, because I lied
Okay.
when I said that I'm not actually talking about game design. Folk games are a great source for you to build a basis from a game off of, right? Among other things, first off, everybody knows them, so you have a common ground when you say, hey, this is my game. It's just like marbles, except it's collectible, right?
That makes a lot of sense because people are constantly describing a game as it's just like X but Y.
Precisely. The other thing is that they're in the public domain, so
Yeah.
you have a lot of, you don't have people coming at you and saying, hey, you stole this idea from my game. So, children's games, the thing I find fascinating about them is they really embody the oral tradition of a folk culture, right? Second type of game, the classic games. So, you know, name a game.
Monopoly, that type of classic game?
All
or
right,
do
so
you mean-
Monopoly, right? Monopoly has the same kind of widespread appeal, but consider things like chess or checkers or
Okay,
Go or
yeah,
backgammon or Chinese checkers.
Okay.
Although I bet you could probably find an author for
The-
Chinese checkers.
Anything like along those lines that you can find 5 of in one at Target.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. Those are the kind of classic games. And now a fascinating thing about this is that in folk art and folk music, right, they tend to be kind of unstructured. And children's games, they don't require a lot of components, right? For a children's game, you've just got people in a broad space. Maybe you've got a few
Some chalk a
goals
lot
or
of
some chalk or
times.
something like that, right? Whereas a classic game like chess or checkers, you need a very specific board, right? You've got this component, and it doesn't tend to change very much. And this brings us to what I was talking about with like these children's games. Tag and marbles, they don't change a lot. And chess and checkers, right? Those games don't change a lot, but you end up with a lot of variance. People make 3-person checkers or 4-player checkers. Or, you've
Or the
got-
Star Trek chess that's on 3 levels.
Exactly. And this is part of what I think makes folk games fascinating. Because what they do is they create a culture for individuals. They say, hey, I like this game, but I want to build off of it. I think this is where you got a lot of spontaneous game design genesis, right?
Okay.
People say, I've got this game, I know about this game, I can make up rules for this game, which is one of the reasons why I like doing this segment, to help give people some game design concepts. So, classic games, right. Card games. Now this is another
You
fascinating.
mean traditional deck of cards, not necessarily people coming up with Uno or with any of the card games these days?
All right, so let's talk about that for a moment. So you've got things like poker and pinochle and
Yeah.
spades and hearts and stuff like
Everything
that, right?
you can do with a traditional deck.
All right, and then you said, however, Uno, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's take a moment and deconstruct Uno. Oh my gosh.
Is
we went
Uno
into
a traditional
deconstruction.
game of...
All right, so what do you have? You have the numbers 1 through 9, right? And then you've got the skip, the draw 2, the reverse, which could be the jack, queen, and king.
I'm about to die of embarrassment
You've
that I
got
never
the
thought of this
0,
before.
which is the 10. And then you've got 2 wild draw 4s, which are special cards. Hey,
Wow.
how many jokers come in a standard deck of cards? Woohoo! Deconstruction for the win! You
This
can
is why
play-
we have Jonathan on this, because he pays attention to these details.
And actually, it's a shame. It's coming up in 2. But the point about this is that the card games as a social or a folk game, right? The fascinating thing about it is that what happened is somebody, well, really the tarot deck then turned into the standard
Magic the
deck of
Gathering
cards.
deck.
Turned into the standard deck of cards, but then you have this platform, and people just built all these different crazy games off of this one incredibly versatile, incredibly portable platform. Fascinating stuff going on there. Next, parlor games. So parlor games. These are very interesting. It's like children's games for grown-ups, right?
Yeah.
So for example, charades or celebrities, AKA Time's Up, right?
Yeah.
What you've got is you've got people, they were bored, they didn't have TV, didn't have radio. You'd have people, maybe play a piece of music on an instrument. But then people are like, hey, I know this great game.
What was the proto version of something like Werewolf or Mafia? Because I'm sure that was based on a folk game.
So Werewolf and Mafia, to my best of knowledge, is that they started like kind of spontaneously from like college campuses, MIT.
I
that
guess
kind
just
of
because
thing.
it's so simple to explain and you don't really need a deck, I assumed that had an older history, that someone like, oh, hey, we can copyright that.
And to my knowledge, I mean, you've got some early parlor games that have kind of a mystery kind of component, but they're never as viscerally violent
Okay.
as Mafia / Werewolf. And again, I think that's a great example of a modern folk game. People are like, oh, I think it started in Cambridge, or I think
Yeah.
I started at MIT, right? But nobody really knows. And again, you have this immense diversity,
Yeah.
right? And this brings up another fascinating thing about folk culture, art, music, and games, which is that you often have regionalizations
Yeah.
of games. Which, let's segue into the next one, social and drinking games, right? So social and drinking games, absolutely. You've got this fantastic amount of kind of regionalization. If you go to A&M, I know that there's, drinking games that are only particular to that region. I used to come from Penn State, and they play beer pong and beer die in a very specific way there. But the one that I wanted to mention is Mao. Have you ever heard of the card game Mao?
I have not.
All right, so the very first rule of the game of Mao is that you don't talk about the rules to Mao. Mao is the fight club of social games. However, I'm going to go ahead and break a cardinal rule.
No.
I'm a bad monkey. Mao is Uno.
Oh, okay. But you have to figure out that it's Uno by playing it?
And then here's the other thing, though, is that every group has its own little regionalizations, right? So they've got these quirky-ass rules. And so even if you know how to play Mao, you don't know how to play Mao. Or if you know how to play Mao in the East Coast and you try to play it with people from Austin, you're going to get confused and mess up.
Okay.
So, very last one I want to talk about is surrealist games.
Okay, that sounds terrible. Go on.
All right, so there was the surrealist movement in France, right?
Uh-huh.
And you had, I think it was like Duchamp and people like that, right? Duchamp, Dali.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the different surrealists. Anyway, what they did is they said one of the big premises of the surrealist movement was art should be made by all, right? And to promote that, they made up games. So I'm cheating a little bit because these aren't really folk games.
Yeah.
Because we actually
But they tried to make them into folk games?
Well, they act like folk games because
Okay.
they're conveyed pretty much through an oral tradition. People are like, hey, let's play Exquisite Corpse. I'll talk about it later. But the thing about a folk game is you can't point at a creator.
Yeah.
You can't say, hey, this is when it was created. This is its genesis, right? But you can say, oh, they took really good notes at Lee's Salon, and this is the first time they played Exquisite Corpse, and these were the results of their poetry. And this
So
kind
what
of
is
thing.
Exquisite Corpse?
So Exquisite Corpse is you take a sheet of paper, and at the top of it, someone writes the title to a poem.
Okay.
They fold it over so you can't see that title, and at the next line, they write a one-word prompt for what they said. And from that prompt, you would then write the first line of the poem. You fold it over, you write a little prompt for the
Okay.
next person. And so as a group, we write poetry, and you do it for about maybe 8 to 12 lines. You get amazingly good poetry.
Really? Because
Yes.
I remember playing something very similar as a girl in elementary school, where you'd be passing things along, you'd write one sentence, they could only see that one sentence folded over, and then you'd read the whole thing. But we weren't trying to make poetry, we were just trying to make Mad Libs, essentially?
And here's how you get the nature of a folk game, right? You have the genesis over here, it could be convergent evolution or parallel evolution, and book, this thing appears.
So for any of you budding game designers out there, what can you take from this and apply towards building your games to make them better?
Well, my basic recommendation here is to take a structure and run off of that. I'm actually going to wrap up because I've almost gone over time.
Oh, that's fine, but go ahead and give people a quick idea of what they can do if they want to use some of this towards building a game.
So really one of the things, take a look at Time's Up and how it took celebrities, research Time's Up, take a look at those two and see how you can take a thing and commercialize it and make it more acceptable and appealing to the public.
All right, come back next time for more game storming. You're going to have a wealth of knowledge right here.
Okay, and we're rolling, and action. Just go ahead when you're ready.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I've just been bat-mailing on my bat phone.
Yeah, can you just do the line, please?
I'm Batman.
No, the other line?
Oh, right. I'm supposed to say some baloney about how you shouldn't click that skip button.
Yeah, the sooner you do that, the sooner we can show people the trailer for the Lego movie.
Fine. Crank up those subwoofers, dude, and check this out.
Good morning, apartment. Ready to start the day. Jumping jacks, hit 'em. 1, 2, 3. I am so pumped up! Yes! Overpriced coffee.
That's $37.
Awesome!
Everything is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this song!
It's cool when we're part of the team. Everything is awesome.
Ah, no, guys, wait up! Where am I?
Come with me if you want to not die.
What is happening?
You're the special. And the prophecy states that you're the most important person in the universe. That's you, right?
Yes. That's me.
Relax, everybody. I'm here.
Batman? Awesome!
Who are you here to see?
I'm here to see your butt.
Oh my gosh!
Pow. Wham. First try.
My fellow master builders. Hello. Lord Business plans to end the world as we know it. There is yet one hope. The special has arisen.
I know what you're thinking. He is the least qualified person to lead us. And you are right.
A house divided against itself would be better than this.
Abraham Lincoln! I'm not the special. I'm just a regular, normal guy.
You have the ability to be the special because I believe in you.
Robots, destroy him!
Aloha, loser!
We'll wing it. It's a bat pun. Take him to the melding chamber.
Isn't there supposed to also be a good cop?
Hi, buddy. Would you like a glass of water?
Yeah, actually.
Too bad.
We are entering your mind.
What?
I don't think he's ever had an original thought.
That's not true. Introducing the double-decker couch. So everyone could watch TV together and be buddies.
That is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Let me handle this. That idea is just the worst.
To the Batmobile. Dang it.
To the invisible jet! Dang it.
So this week I have something extra special I want to talk to you about. When I say extra special, I mean hate-tastic.
Hate-tastic. That sounds wonderful.
You know what it is?
I have no idea.
Orson Scott Card.
Orson Scott Card.
I know.
What's so bad about Orson Scott Card?
There's a list. The number one thing that's awful about Orson Scott Card, though, is he's really horribly homophobic, terribly sexist, and a radical right-wing Republican.
Well, wait a minute. I have a question here. Why is that relevant? If he's a radically right-wing Republican, homophobic, what?
The problem is, The problem is he's going to take a lot of the money that he's making from the Ender's Game movie and apply it directly towards hate speech and towards hate causes.
That's distressing.
It is. And here's the worst part about it. This would not be a problem if he was dead.
Wait. Now I don't understand.
Okay, we are willing to forgive most dead authors for just about anything. The worst example I can come up with this is one of my favorite authors, Mark Twain.
Mark Twain's awesome.
Everybody loves Mark Twain. Guess what Mark Twain hated? Native Americans.
All right, how much did he hate Native Americans?
He honest to goodness called for wholesale genocide of all Native Americans, and he wasn't kidding around with it. He very, very seriously wanted to see every Native American wiped off the face of the planet.
That's pretty extreme.
It was pretty extreme, yet we think of him as being this very happy-go-lucky guy because, hey, he was all about blacks, and every now and then he was actually even halfway decent to Asians.
So how does this link back to Orson Scott Card?
We forgive Mark Twain because he's dead.
All right.
Because you know what? He's not going to use any money he made off of his books to go actually work on killing Native Americans.
Okay.
The problem is, Orson Scott Card, on the other hand, has actually said he wants to use the money that he's making off of this. He said he wants to use the money he's making off of these books to actively make sure that gays can't get married. He has called for them to just go ahead and commit suicide already. He actually advocates hate speech with his money.
Has he always been crazy?
He hasn't quite always been crazy. He's always been a little bit on the conservative side. But my understanding, and I'm trying to be sympathetic, but it's hard, is that he has a severely disabled son who was in a wheelchair, died at 17, and that when that severely disabled son was born, that just sent him off the deep end. And from that point on, he lived in crazy land.
So what could we possibly do?
Assassinate Orson Scott Card.
What can we do that's legal to counter the crazy?
I'm not 100% sure about that, to be honest. This is a very difficult issue for me because, on the one hand, the movie looks like it's going to be fantastic. It's got a great cast. It's a really good premise with Ender's Game. As much as people pause on that, before it was written, it wasn't something you saw a lot of.
All right, so I've got two quick things about Ender's Game, right? The first one is that I agree. When it was first created, the idea of using video games to train children to be incredibly efficient tacticians in the battlefield, yeah, that was really, really innovative back then, right? The thing is that...
That was the 80s?
Beyond that, and again, it is a product of its era, but if I see another white male privilege, you are the chosen one, male fantasy, shoot me in the head right now.
I agree with you there. There are going to be some problematic aspects to it, but I think they're going to be able to strip a lot of that away with good casting and make a genuinely good science fiction movie. And here's where my difficulty comes in. Do I punish, by not seeing it, all the other people that made this movie just because this one guy's going to do something hateful? I'm leaning towards yes, to be honest, but do they deserve that?
There's a really distressing thing here. So you said that his expressed purpose was to take the money he makes off his books and ostensibly the movie and create foundations that promote horrible things.
Yes.
There's where we're hosed. Because he dies, the foundation continues.
I hadn't even thought of that.
So...
Are we back to assassinating Orson Scott Card?
But you see, that doesn't fix it.
That's true. Because
what you do then is you've martyred. Well, aside from the fact that it's illegal, we don't assassinate people on fan service. Aside from being illegal, it turns him into a martyr.
That's true. That's true. Do you have a good solution to offer?
Well, Scalzi, John Scalzi, right?
Yes.
Really, really intelligent author type person, and he's really sensible, right? Mm-hmm. And he uses his power for good, right?
On a regular basis.
So really what we have to do, I mean, instead of calling for assassination, like, there's blood on your shirt. Instead of calling for assassination, what we need to do is we need to fight evil with good. I know that sounds...
So we need to put John Scalzi and Orson Scott Card into a like Thunderdome and make them fight?
Get John Scalzi to start the John Scalzi Foundation?
So John Scalzi, that's our call for you. Please fight against Orson Scott Card and his hate speech by starting some sort of pro-positive foundation, whatever you want to call it. Whatever, for example, is a good name. I understand that's the name of your blog. And try and promote positive, good, happy things, because we can't let this guy become a martyr. We can't let this guy use his money to promote hate and then take that hate and create a foundation that will outlast him.
Institutionalizing hate's just an awful, awful thing.
It is.
Coming up on the drop zone, Cap.
You do anything fun Saturday night?
Well, all the guys in my barbershop quartet are dead, so... No, not really.
You know, if you ask Kristen out from statistics, she'd probably say yes.
That's why I don't ask.
Too shy or too scared?
Too busy!
Is he wearing a parachute?
No.
No, he wasn't.
I joined S.H.I.E.L.D. to protect people. Captain, to build a better world sometimes means tearing the old one down. And that makes enemies.
Are you ready for the world to see you as you really are? Look out the window. You know how the game works. Disorder, war. All it takes is one step.
We're gonna neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
Thought the punishment usually came after the crime.
S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
You need to keep both eyes open.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Your work has been a gift to mankind. You've shaped the century. And I need you to do it one more time.
Gear up. It's time.
So that's been this episode of Fanservice. Thanks, Nathan, for coming out.
Thank you.
Go to cursetoCrossTheLine.com for more information. What do you have, Jonathan?
So I'm wearing a Flaming Idiots t-shirt. John of the Flaming Idiots really needs help. Google Flaming Idiots John Medical Help. Please give him money. He's done so much for so many people. Give a little back.
Next week, we have the mind behind Time Splitters Rewind going to be with us over Skype. It's going to be awesome. You're not going to want to miss it. So say goodbye, everyone. Curse Across the Line. You definitely want to go get it. We'll see you next week.